If you're running a retail business, don't let disorganized order fulfillment cause chaos. Use ShipStation instead. From running a business out of your garage to multiple warehouses, ShipStation is ideal for every phase of your growth. Save time with one login for all your stores and by automating tasks. Plus, you'll get the best shipping rates from global carriers. Calm the chaos with the shipping software that delivers. Start a free trial at shipstation.com/audio. That's shipstation.com/audio.
Kroger Delivery has one mission: to deliver the freshest food right to your door. That's why our drivers are pros. Our trucks are refrigerated. And when it comes to low prices, we always deliver. With $20 off your first order of $75 or more, there's no better time to get in on the action. Mission accomplished. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
Welcome to the Dynasty Dugout Show, a podcast covering all things minor league baseball. Get a front row seat to the action with everything you need to know about the future stars of Major League Baseball. And now, here's your host, Chris Clegg.
What is up, everybody? Happy Monday, February 19th. It is President's Day. So if you are off work hanging out with us, thanks for joining. I'm looking forward to today's breakdown as we continue through the NL East, with the Philadelphia Phillies today. I'm glad we're getting this division done sooner than later. I will say that. It's a pretty weak division from a standpoint of prospects. The New York Mets obviously have a good system, and there are some fun ones to like in the Philly system as well. But today, got to keep chugging. So we are talking Phillies top prospects. If you have any questions, you're always more than welcome to drop them in the chat. Again, thank you for being with us. We will break down the farm. I will drop the link in the chat if you want to follow along with us. Again, the NL East are my oldest write-ups, so there will certainly be some things that have changed with these from the article. And I do plan to go back and update all of those, so I will update pretty soon. But you can follow along with what's there. Just drop the link in the chat to the right. And we will go ahead and get started. I'll actually share the link for the article in the video so you can follow along with us as we talk. To no surprise, the top prospect in the Philadelphia Phillies system is Andrew Painter. Unfortunately, he did not pitch last year due to UCL injury, resulted in Tommy John surgery, so we did not get to see him. But he is rehabbing. He is going to be coming back. And I believe that he has a chance to step back in and be one of the top pitching prospects in the game. There's no denying the talent. There's no denying the upside. When you think about an arm like Andrew Painter, you just think that there's ace upside. And I still believe that. Now, obviously, we don't know what he's going to look like coming back from TJ. But we do know that as a young 19-year-old, that stuff was quite elite. And we know that he's still going to be only 21 coming back. That's the crazy thing, is that when we see him in 2025, he's going to be just 21 years old. And so there's no doubting that he can step back in and be that kind of guy that we all believe that he can be. Because the talent is absolutely there. I mean, in 2022, the fastball averaged 97. It reached 101 regularly. It had just an insane rising effect with the IVB that he generated at the top of the zone. I mean, it looked unhittable, honestly. When we think about like a good fastball, like he's got it. Andrew Painter has that fastball that I believe can be a 70 grade pitch when you think of the velocity, when you see the traits, like it just has everything that I believe can help vault him up to be a top pitching prospect. We'll pull up some film on him from YouTube. We'll drop that in here just so you can watch a little bit and just see like how nasty this stuff is. Let me share the screen with you here. And you all know, I mean, you've seen him. A lot of you have seen him pitch. You've seen the stuff, but let's just watch a little bit together because he is so good. All right. So here we go. Some Andrew Painter action, 2022. See the breaking ball there. Just a devastating pitch. There's the fastball up in the zone, dropping in the breaker. I mean, he has everything you want. I just hate that it took so long for the team to decide to go the surgery route with him. I mean, he was diagnosed with the UCL sprain back in April. It was something that, we were aware of. I was told that probably a month before too. And they decide to wait. They decide to go the rest and recovery route. And he ended up needing TJ, which now pushes him out until 2025. Unfortunately, fastball, as I mentioned, 97 on average, up to 101. Misses a ton of bats at the top of the zone. The slider, it sits in the mid to low 80s. It averaged anywhere from like 10 to 13 inches of sweeping action last year, which is pretty significant. Anything over 10, I'd say, is pretty solid. So that's certainly something to like there with the slider. He spins it really well. And ultimately, I think he hides the ball well. He creates a lot of deception, keeps hitter on their toes. He mixes in the changeup, which made major progress in 2022. That was a pitch coming to the draft. That was like, okay, like what is the changeup going to be like with Andrew Painter? And it made major steps forward too, which paid off major ways. And then I just truly believe that even though the curve is the lesser of the breaking balls, that it's still arguably a plus pitch. He was throwing a new cutter in spring training in 2023, sitting around 90 miles an hour. Like 5 pitch mix here. It's 5 separate velocity bands, 4 different movement patterns. Like to me, Andrew Painter's like everything that you want in an arm. So from a dynasty standpoint, like you can get this guy cheap. I'm not saying you can get him like super cheap, but you can get him cheaper than he would have cost you this time a year ago. Like spring training last year, like it was looking like he was going to break into the rotation at 19, that he was going to be the next ace that everybody was waiting on. And while I think most people still believe that to be true, I think that it's the fact that, well, he's not going to pitch this year. So because of that, there's an opportunity for you to get him a little bit cheaper in a dynasty league. So I'm looking to acquire him actually just on the upside. I think that, I mean, he's still so young. He's at this point has Tommy John behind him, which I think is huge. And like I said, out of sight, out of mind in dynasty, that goes a long way sometimes. Like people just play dynasty a weird way. And because someone hasn't been on the mound, they're like, okay, like you just forget about him. So I'm not really sure. We flipped over to Bryce Harper there, hitting a bomb, but that's Andrew Painter. Everything you want in an arm, upside, invest. I'm all over it. The next guy in the system is Mick Abel, who I've long been a fan of. I love Mick Abel, but I do believe there are question marks here that Mick Abel still needs to answer. We haven't fully seen Mick Abel put it all together like we want. He flashes all the upside. He shows a really good arsenal, but then there's times where it's like, okay, why is it not clicking? Like something's missing. I'd watch starts where it's like, okay, like he's grooving through 4 innings. And then by the 5th, it's like it just all falls apart. The interesting thing is the numbers aren't really bad. Like the second and third time through the order. I think the question's always been command with Mick Abel, but ultimately he commands it well enough. Like he throws enough strikes. But anyway, the question marks with Abel are certainly that. Strike throwing, the walk rate being near 14% last year. He lives in the zone like enough, which is the confusing thing about the profile. Like he is in the zone. So 50% zone rate is something that I'd say is pretty solid. But the walks are just getting out of control a bit. So the arsenal, really good. From a pure stuff standpoint, it's as good as nearly any pitching prospect in the minors. The fastball set near 97 last year, touching 100, and he's 18 inches of induced vertical break at the top of the zone, which is really, really good. So that's huge for Abel. The fastball, his go-to pitch, throws it quite often. He's getting the results. He throws that sweeper as well, as you just saw in the video. That thing gets up to the upper 80s on occasion. It gets that late bite in sweeping action, and he gets hitters to chase out of the zone with it. He's comfortable throwing it in the zone and out of the zone, which is good. I like when people can land the breaking balls for strikes in the zone, but also when they need to, they're getting the chase out of the zone. So the slider, sweeper, really good pitch. I think it's a plus pitch, arguably. The changeup has progressed well over the last 2 seasons, especially this year. I think it's pretty viable playing off the fastball, especially now because he sells it so well. He has similar arm speed to it. It's set 90, which is a pretty hard changeup, but there is enough separation that is a big aspect here, because when the fastball is sitting 97, okay, the 90 mile an hour changeup is all right. I mean, you want a little more separation, but 7 miles an hour is good. That's totally fine. So that pitch averaged 15 inches of fading action on it this year, which is massive. So you're getting a lot of separation horizontally between the slider and the changeup. You've heard me talk a lot about that. Like, I love when pitchers are able to do that, when they're able to separate those two so well. I'm not sure what just popped up on the screen, but Mick Abel has all the recipe for success. He's just got to be able to throw strikes. Mentioned he rounds out with the curveball. It's low 80s. He actually doesn't use it all that often. Surprisingly, like, I think he could add it. That changeup drop in there is nasty. But sorry, side point as I'm watching the film. So at the end of the day, like, when we're looking at Mick Abel, there's like SP2 upside. But I also think there's downside of a bullpen arm, just because of the fact the walk rate. The strike rate, 61.5%. That's pretty close to minor league average. So if he ticks up to 63%, like, that'd be awesome. It doesn't necessarily match the 14% walk rate. As I mentioned, the zone rate is good. He gets the chase. I'm really curious to see what the 2024 version of Mick Abel looks like, because I really do believe that this could be an arm that, if he puts it together, could be an SP2, SP3 caliber type arm. The upside's really good here. I think we see him debut at some point this year. I believe he's more than ready. The question is, how does he fit in, and what is the profile like? It's an ever-evolving profile, but one that maybe you buy the dip on right now. Maybe it's worth kind of seeing if you can get him a little bit cheaper, because at the end of the day, I think that Abel will be able to throw enough strikes. If he gets the walk rate near 10%, then, like, I'm all about it. So top 2 guys in the system are both arms. And we'll bring in our third guy now, who was a draftee this year, who you guys know that I've long been a fan of, Aiden Miller. I thought they got an absolute steal with Miller in the back end of the first round, 27th overall. Very, very good value for Miller. He's one of the more decorated hitters in the class. He's long been known for his power as a young guy, like a young prep player, like, always stood out on the showcase circuit. He has good bat speed, really good contact skills, strong arm. Like, he's a third baseman through and through, just from the power standpoint. Like, the glove's good enough. I think there's plus or better power here. The contact plate discipline plays above average, in my opinion. And while you're not going to get stolen bases out of this profile, that's okay, because of the fact that he's going to give you so much power and feel to hit. And Beck mentions that Miller's Team USA resume is bonkers. It really is. Like, there's a lot to like with Aiden Miller's profile, and one that I really just believe where he could take off. So we'll throw up the little film we have onto the video. There's not a lot of film, obviously, on him at this point, but there are some things to look at here in the profile. With Miller, like, I just think I want to invest in every FYPD that I can. He does so many things well. I think just when you're drafted later, people kind of I won't say like fade you, but they're not as in on them as they were. Like if he was top 10, then like obviously he's going to go high in FYPD. But you look at him 27th overall pick, it's like, I think there's a good buy-in opportunity here. So he's one that I'm going to be drafting in every FYPD. I kind of comped him to like Brady House in a way. This profile kind of reminds me of this. Like he's not quite as big as House, but he's filled out well. He's got a strong frame. He's got a really good swing and a good feel to hit for power. And you think about Brady House hasn't quite lived up to the hype yet, but I still believe that House will get there. Miller, you look at it, he didn't put up like huge numbers in the pro debut. Between complex and single A, the slash line was good, 303, 425, 379, but he didn't hit a home run. He did post a near 10% barrel rate, which I thought was really good. And the 9th percentile EV was at 105 miles an hour, which is pretty encouraging for a young guy stepping into his first taste of pro ball. The big thing here was he did not chase at all. He had a 91% zone contact rate. He had an 87% overall contact rate. And those are spectacular. So when I'm looking at the future profile, like what can Aiden Miller be? I think that Miller can hit for average. I think he's going to get on base at a high clip, like maybe a 275, 280 hitter, get on base at a 350, 360 clip. And I think there's 20, 25 home run pop in this bat. Like I really believe in it. I love this swing. I love the kind of athlete that he is. I know there's a little hitch there, but I'm not particularly worried about it. He does a lot of things well. And personally, like it's just an easy invest for me in an FYPD. Yeah, I know you mentioned the hand load. That is interesting. And I'll be curious to see, like, does he struggle with high velo? I don't know. I mean, we'll see. He hasn't yet. The contact rates were really good. He didn't show any signs of struggle there to this point. But yeah, it's something to watch for sure. That load, the little hitch in the hands. So after this, the system kind of gets interesting. There's a lot of different ways to go. I'm landing on Justin Crawford in the 4th spot. Obviously, he is the son of Carl Crawford. Phillies took him in the first round of 2022. He was known for the speed and the defense, much like his father. The questions are, what does this profile look like? I mean, the run times are consistently 70 or 80 grade. He steals bases, stole 47 last year while playing a strong center field. He's very aggressive. That's the thing to know about Crawford. A very aggressive hitter. He swung at 53% of pitches last year and 74% of pitches in zone, which are both really high marks. He makes it work. He chases, though. 37% chase rate was very high, but he still made contact 78% of the time and 88% in zone. So while being aggressive, Crawford actually made it work. Here's the problem. He made contact a lot. It's not a contact issue here at all. Rather, it's the kind of batted balls he's putting in play. He put the ball on the ground at a 70% rate. Yes, you heard that right, 70%. That is a massive number. 50% is a high number, but we're talking 70% last year. And his launch angle was -9 degrees. So those are all issues. Those things have to be fixed. Can they? Sure. But it's not often that we see guys are able to really change the loft of the swing completely. Excuse me. A couple sneezes. I felt that coming for a second. I was trying to hold off on it, but here we go. Let's look at some Justin Crawford and see what's going on here. Yes, the mute work was very good. Thanks, Beck. Just in time. Here's Justin Crawford. It's a funny looking swing, like when you look at it. He's obviously really quick. There's him stealing a base. He steals with ease. He's not going to get called a lot because he is so fast. There he is pounding the ball on the ground. He's going to beat it out because he's very fast. We know that. The power is actually better than I thought. I was a little surprised when I saw the power numbers. I was like, oh man, his 9th percentile EV was right at MLB average at 103.6. So that's great. Like, he's in the ball hard, but does it really translate because he's just pounding on the ground? And that's the major concern here with Crawford is, can he lift it enough and can he make enough quality contact to really play up? When he puts the ball in play, things are going to happen just because he's so quick. He's moving like he's going to steal, but got to lift the ball here a bit more. Everything was on the ground last year. You see, I mean, even a routine ball to short, like he's beating out. He's so fast. I just want to know, is there a lift here? We joked about it when we streamed the Futures game last summer. Like he actually put like 2 balls in the outfield. It was like the only 2 balls he had put out of the infield all year. I know it's a joke, but seriously, like this is what he's done all year. So I'd watch this carefully and just see, like, Crawford is going to be a big stolen base impact, which is huge for fantasy purposes. Obviously, you want the stolen bases. He hits the ball hard enough, but can he lift it enough to make things happen? And I don't know. I really am not sure. I think that's still to be determined. He's still young. He's got a projectable frame at 6'3", 175. So there is potential. I think there's tools to dream on, but we need to see a little tweaks in the swing in order for him to really get to what he needs to be. So next guy actually was somebody that he really popped off to me in the Arizona Fall League. And that's Gabriel Rincones Jr. He was really, really good, actually. I was rather impressed with what I saw out of him, and I didn't expect that. Like, you saw him early on in the AFL. He's like, okay, like he's putting up good numbers. Like, this is great. But then it's like, like you see him in person, like this guy's bigger than he looks. Like, he's got a pretty good frame on him. He hits the ball hard. He's very aggressive on the base pass too, which I like. I thought he did some really good things where I'm like, okay, this guy's like really moving. He's got a funky, like, kind of setup, and I'll show you. Let me pull it up. It's like really low hands, and there's a little bit of movement, but it works. Like, it's completely worked for him all year, and even throughout the fall league. Like, he was really impressive. So we'll put up some of this film real quick. We'll watch. And then we had a question in the chat. Say he gets on base at a 330 clip. This was Justin Crawford. How many stolen bases do you think he could get? I mean, there's certainly a lot to like here with the stolen base total. I think 50 is reasonable. I don't see why he couldn't do 50 to 60. I'm thinking about the profile. Like, I don't have a good comp for him, but you look at what he has done. I think 50 is more than reasonable. But yeah, look, Rincone's hands are really low, and there's him chopping a ball on the ground. See, don't know if he beat out. He's very well built too, but he moves well for his size. Like, this was a game I was at, actually. He does so many things that I like, actually, and I thought his season kind of flew under the radar in 2023. The slash line in the regular season was 248, 351, 427, which is fine. Like, it's nothing that's going to wow you. He had 15 home runs. He stole 32 bases, and he added 31 doubles and 3 triples. So 49 extra base hits. Everything in the AFL was just consistent of what he did throughout the regular season. He doesn't chase at a high clip, 25% chase. So he has a really good feel for the strike zone. The contact rates are like right at average. So like 73% contact is okay. Like, it's right at minor league average. Obviously, the major league average is, you're going to have to get that up because it's much higher. But he did make contact in the zone 82% of the time, which I liked. The average EV of 90 miles an hour kind of popped and caught my eye. But really, it was the 9th percentile exit velocity of 107. And you're like, oh, man, like, this dude actually can hit the ball hard. 107 is firmly plus. Like, MLB average, like 103.5. Like, that is really good power. It's a question of him, like, how much lift does he get? Because there are also some things where he needs to lift the ball a little more. I think we're looking at like a 15 home run type player, which is fine. Like, it's not going to wow you by any means, but I also think he's going to steal bases. Like, he is very aggressive. He'd get on base and steal on the first pitch and steal with ease. And the clock times aren't like overly impressive, but he gets really, really good jumps. I don't know. I don't think we're looking at like a 260 type hitter. Maybe he gets on base at a 330 clip. 10, 15 home runs. I'd say 15 home runs. Steal you 20 to 30 bases. Like, It's a pretty good player that's not talked about very much, in my opinion. He's built really well. He just looks like a ball player. So he's someone that I watch, and I'm like, I came away from the AFL like, all right, I really like what he has to offer and what he brings to the table. I think that there's a really good ball player in here, and it's somebody that's not being valued appropriately at all for dynasty purposes. So if you can invest in Rincones pretty cheap, I probably would. Like, I have him like as a top 250 prospect, if I'm not mistaken. But I think that there's juice for a little more. The thing is, I'd pick him up because nobody's really in on him. And you can pick him up if he starts out the year pretty hot, then he's really going to move up boards for everybody. And then it comes a question of, can you flip him? Maybe so. It's worth a shot, I would say. So Gabriel Rincones Jr., my number 5 prospect in the system. The next guy has debuted, and I normally don't rank relievers all that high, actually. But you probably know because he's debuted, and so Ryan Kerkering, who pretty spectacular. He came up and just kind of lit the world on fire. He pitched at 5 levels in 2023. He pitched in key spots in the Phillies bullpen down the stretch and in the playoffs. Like, that kind of shows their hand of how they value him. He had a 1.51 ERA and across 49 appearances, 79 Ks, 12 walks, no runs allowed in his time in the majors, which is very impressive. He dominates hitters with a sweeper, 86-87, 13 inches of horizontal movement or sweeping action. The sinker, the sinker actually has pretty high IVB for a sinker at 15.5 and then 13 inches of horizontal movement. So I like that pitch a lot. I think that combo could make him, like, give him a run at the Phillies bullpen or like the closer role eventually in the bullpen. He's going to pitch in some high leverage spots, I think. He's young. I think there's a lot to like here with Orion Kerkering. You've seen him in the majors. I don't need to go in depth on him as much as I want to with this guy because Griff McGarry is really fascinating. McGarry, I wish that I had a better grasp on what he could be. But at this point, like, I kind of fear that he's just going to be a pin guy because of the command and control. The stuff's electric. He's one of those college guys that was like not really recognized as much as he should have. But man, he has some really fun stuff that I like. We'll pull up some film here of him blowing some fastballs by hitters in spring training, which was a lot of fun. I mean, he's making Rafael Devers whiff on this fastball up that I saw. So let me share this screen with you. Griff McGarry is fun, but man, he's really volatile for sure. So here he is. This is against Rafael Devers. Woo, getting some whiff up, baby. I like that. McGarry's fastball sits 95, but it touches 99 regularly. It's a very high IVB pitch at the top of the zone. He throws a cutter that sits in the upper 80s. He misses bats with that cutter pretty regularly too, which I like to see. Oh man, making Devers look silly there. McGarry has all the talent in the world. A changeup, has a ton of fade, 15 inches of fade on average, a big IVB separation between that and the four seam. So it's very deceptive pitch, in my opinion. The sweeper, low 80s, 10 inches of sweeping action. Man, I think McGarry has like 3+ pitches, to be honest with you. Like, the stuff is really, really good with Griff McGarry. But here's the issues, and here's where they lie. 30% strikeout rate, but an 18.5% walk rate between Double and AAA last year. He threw strikes at a 56% clip. I mentioned that 63 was about average. So Mick Abel was pretty close to average, at least. We're not even in the vicinity here with Griff McGarry. We're talking 20-30 grade control and strike throwing ability here. So Griff McGarry probably ends up in the bullpen, if I had to guess. It may be the back end of a bullpen. He has the stuff to pitch in the back end of a bullpen. But the biggest thing with McGarry is just strike throwing. There's no questioning his ability to miss bats. It's very clear here in the film, like, he's got all the stuff in the world. He just can't find the zone, and that's my concern here. The toughest thing with McGarry is that he has so many good pitches. If he was able to harness the command even in the slightest, then we're probably looking at a really solid like SP2-3 type. but he just can't. And if he's a starter, it's probably a back-end starting pitcher. But most likely, I'm throwing McGarry in the bullpen just because he does not find a strike. Like, that pitch was not a strike. That just was a called third strike. That was below the zone. But aside the point, Griff McGarry, nasty stuff. But the strike throwing ability, just not there. Remember, if you want to pop in the chat with any questions, you're more than welcome to do so. Would love to interact with you guys. Thanks again for being here today. Our next prospect in the system is Simone Muzziotti. He, I think, is one of the more underrated prospects in the Phillies system. He's not flashy. He's not going to be a stud fantasy asset by any means at all, but he actually has some pretty good traits that I like to see. Muzziotti is a high contact hitter. 91% zone, 84% overall last year. He's aggressive. He swings at 50% of pitches, chased at 38% clip, but it didn't affect the contact rates at all, which is so interesting. He makes it work. But when I look at Muzziotti, I just see those contact skills. I see the stolen bases. He stole 26 bags last year across 124 games. He slashed 296, 358, 404. But the power is the question. Like, he hit just 7 home runs. I think that you look at that and you're like, okay, like, there's no power here at all. But he did have a 103 mile an hour 9th percentile. So that's close to major league average. But the average EV was 87, which would be probably 25th percentile among majors. The questions are like, where does Muzziotti fit in the Phillies outfield? He really doesn't have a good spot. He makes contact. He's got speed. He's a fun profile, in my opinion, but I'm not sure how much of a fantasy impact that Muzziotti really makes. So that'll be a fun one to watch. This next guy has been a fun name that's really been a riser, especially in our Discord, and that is Tashawn TJ Walton. He is a tooled up prep draftee from this summer's draft. Posted big exit velocities throughout his prep career. We're going to find a little film on him from his high school days. I'm not sure there's much out there on his pro debut, but there is a lot to like here with Walton. He went to IMG Academy, which we know is notorious for bringing in the big time talent. They're a boarding school where people go down and live there. They specialize and they become really, really good athletes. IMG is some of the best across all sports for every sport. But here's some film from him. This is from 2022, actually. So Walton is athletic. You look at him, you see a good athlete. He's got bat speed. He does things that I think give him the potential upside to be a pretty solid player that could move up boards. The question is, we haven't seen a ton of him. We don't know the true upside with TJ Wall. We know that he's going to be an athletic outfielder. He played 5 games at the complex. He hit 385, small sample, but he struck out 6 times in 17 plate appearances, walked 3 times. So it's a very limited pro sample of what we have on him. The exit velocities that I got on him as a prep, he went to 105 sophomore in high school, which is really good. That's a pretty high number. And then he was up to 109, I think he topped out at in later years of high school, which is really good. Sorry, this film's getting a little blurry, but you get the point of who he is. Here's the thing. He has very good bat speed numbers, top of his class bat speed for a prep player. He ran a 6.7 second 60, which is almost plus range. I would say that's plus range speed. He looks like an NFL wide receiver, 6'3", 225. So that build plus athleticism is a profile that I like to bet on. I think that the helium around him is really interesting. He's really vaulted up boards, especially around our parts of the Discord, because we know Nate Handy and the rookie Matt like him a lot. But I'm curious to see what Walton looks like in this season. We may see him some. I'll probably get some looks at him in Phillies minor league camp when we're over there in March. So I'm really curious to see and hope that he can make the best on this profile. But the athletes, those are the kind of guys that I want to bet on, are these really good athletes. And Tashawn TJ Walton is one of those athletes. Very, very good athlete. The next guy is one that's really been, I don't see the side swing actually before we step off of Walton. Here's an open face view of his swing. I mean, you see that bat speed's really, really good. There's no arguing that. Like, very solid bat speed. So you see the swing there. He taking a pitch up and hitting it. Brian Rincon, he has flown up boards. I think if I'm not mistaken, he was in Eric Longenhagen's top 100. So with Rincon, the interesting thing with him, I think is a better real life prospect than fantasy. So that is one reason I think that he is a little higher. He's a really good glove at shortstop. So that kind of potential there is something that I think is vaulting him up boards more than I would be willing to vault him in a fantasy type ranking. But I do think that he's somebody to watch. If he gets a little bigger, then I think there's some potential. He's 5'10" right now. He's 19 years old at 5'10". So he's a little bit smaller of a prospect, but I do think there are some things here to like about the profile. And this is a home run swing from him in single A. You see, he's a little smaller, but he is pretty explosive. Like that swing, you knew it was gone off the bat. Like the pitcher absolutely knew it was gone. So pretty explosive lower half, pretty explosive bat speed. Like we'll watch this again. Just watch the lower half here, then we'll go back and watch the bat. Just want to kind of talk on this. You can kind of see like he gets that lower half in really early in the swing. And then he's got a lot of strength in the upper half too, and a lot of bat speed that he generates for his frame. So to me, that looks pretty good. For somebody that's smaller at 5'10", you need to have that kind of strength to be able to really get to some of these home runs. Here's an inside the park. Let's see. This will be fun. Inside the park home run in Dunedin from Rincon. It's another one. I mean, you see the hands are really quick through the zone, and that ball almost leaves the yard to the deepest part of the park. Yes, the center fielder misplayed it. And yes, that's very common to see in single A. Single A ball is not really good, to be honest with you. There's some players that they shouldn't be in professional baseball. I hate to say that, but it is what it is. So aside the point, last year, Rincon, he was a 14th rounder in 2022. He slashed 234, 368, 361 with 8 home runs last season in 99 games. Not flashy at all, but he did steal 27 bases. So that's pretty good there. So the stolen bases are an asset for Rincon. I think that he gets some more power. And if he does, then he's really going to move up my board pretty significantly. The underlying data, he's selective, which is good. He swung at just 38% of pitches. So we're kind of the polar opposite of some of these other guys we had talked about that were in the 50 to 53% range. For reference, Emmanuel Rodriguez, who's notorious no swinger, he swings at about 36% of pitches. So 38% swing rate for Rincon. And he made contact 81% of the time with a zone contact rate of 87%. Chase just 19% of the time, which I think shows really solid plate discipline. And as I'm sitting here talking about him, I think I'm even moving him up in my head. Like, I think he needs to move up. So I'm going to be moving up Brian Rincon a little bit because watching him and seeing the plate discipline profile, the contact skills, his max EV was 108 last year. Good max EV, but everything else wasn't great. The hard hit rate was just 26%. The average EVs were not great at all. I do think he's a high floor hitter. And I do think he could break out this year. So Brian Rincon is one to watch. And he's somebody that I think that I may be moving up boards a little bit more now, just kind of watching him and looking at this profile. Going down the list, there's some interesting names. Raylan Heredia, 19-year-old outfielder. He's an athlete, 6 foot 175. He's got really good instincts. He moves well. He's got a little bit of power. He's got a little bit of speed. The contact rates don't really match the performance. He had a 314 batting average last year with a 392 OBP, but he made contact just 65% of the time. So he may fade a little bit, but he's someone to watch closely. Carlos De La Cruz, if you've ever seen him, he's 6'8", 210. Like, this is a massive human being. The 9th percentile exit velocity of 109, just absurd power, but he doesn't make contact is the problem. Like, the zone's so big, he doesn't make contact. He was 65% last year. It's well below average. It's borderline like questionable of whether he can actually make it, I think. So that will be something to watch with Carlos De La Cruz. Starlin Caba is another one to watch. He was their big signing in 2023, so last international class. He got a $3 million bonus. He's a glove first type. He's a good shortstop, makes a lot of plays, very smooth in the field. He slashed 304, 424, 348 last year. He's a switch hitter, but contact rates were much better from the left side. Power seemed to be more natural from the left side as well. So something to watch there. He's a very hit over power approach right now. 5'10", 160. So I'd keep an eye on Caba, but I'm not sure what kind of fantasy appeal he has. But I will say this next guy, certainly somebody that I want to keep an eye on for fantasy purposes, and that's Eduardo Tate, who was in the DSL this summer, and he really looked the part. I thought he was rather impressive from the standpoint of he did some really good things in the DSL /333, 400, 517. Had 3 home runs, but he had 18 extra base hits in 44 games. He spent the entire season as a 16-year-old. He showed really good feel for contact. He didn't strike out much. Very disciplined hitter. I love to see that. From so good in the DSL. He's strong frame, smooth swing. I think there's good bat speed as well. He did struggle a little bit against lefties, so that's something to keep an eye on. Just 25 at bats, so it's not a ton, but I do think that Eduardo Tate, the catcher, could really vault up boards in this system, because you look at the profile, you look at what he's done, and like, man, this guy, pretty intriguing. He's got contact. I think he's got some pop too. I think he's going to grow in some power into that frame. So he's one to really keep an eye on. That's Eduardo Tate, catcher in the Phillies organization. Next guy, William Bergola, who best contact rates in the minors, no questioning. 97% in zone, 94% overall. Like, you're looking at Luis Ari's contact rates. Like, that's just very, very impressive, with the fact that no one can do that and put up those numbers. Like, that's absurd when you think about 97% in zone contact rate, 94% overall. That's wild. But here's the problem. There's no power to speak of. A 99 mile an hour max, a 95 mile an hour ninth percentile, and an 83.5 mile an hour average EV. So he's got a lot of work to do. He's like 100th percentile contact rates for MILB, but he's like first percentile for power for EVs. So it's a weird profile. May not be the best fantasy profile. He could fill out his frame. He could add some strength, but I'd keep an eye on him just from the contact standpoint. I really like, but he's, I mean, kind of a weird profile for fantasy purposes. But there's a couple draft guys I do want to get into before we get out of here. That's Devin Saltaban. He's interesting. He grew up in Hawaii. He was one of the top players in the state, and he participated in the MLB Draft League, where he kind of raised his stock pretty significantly, posted some really good numbers. He debuted in the Florida Complex League, 333, 391, 452 slash. The reports I've gotten from scouts are that he's a very hard worker, very good work ethic, and one of the best that was at the complex level for the Phillies from that standpoint. So Devin Saltaban, keep an eye on him. George Clausen, he's a starter from the University of Minnesota, drafted this year. The results weren't great. I mean, he was actually really bad at Minnesota. 5.72 ERA and a 1.7 WHIP, 47 walks to 49 strikeouts. You're like, okay, well, what's going on here? There's a reason why the Phillies drafted him in the 6th round. The arsenal, really, really good. He's throwing a fastball up to 98, averaged near 98 last year in college. 15 inches of horizontal, 14 inches of IVB. So kind of a dead zone, but the horizontal is really good on that pitch. Throws the slider and changeup, but the curveball was his most used secondary. We're looking at like 60 inches of vertical drop, which is huge, and 11 inches of sweeping action as well. Obviously, big reliever risk, but he's got an intriguing arsenal with the fastball and curve, and he even throws the slider and changeup. Pretty interesting as well. Amirion Boyd, he was not a draftee last year, but high contact, speed type profile, 56 stolen bases, slash 262, 366, 324. No power, as you see with the 324 slug, 1 home run and 14 extra base hits, but 90% zone contact, 80% overall contact. Really good numbers there that you like to see. The exit velocities, much like William Bergola, 83.3 average, 99 mile an hour, 90th percentile. So not really good. I do think there's a chance he could add more power, but the contact and stolen bases are the name of the game when we look at Amirion Boyd. There is one pitcher to hit on before I get out of here, and that's Win-Hugh Pan. And I hope I'm saying his name right. He's a reliever, but man, he has really nasty stuff. Last year, he pitched out of the closer role some. He had some saves. He had 57 innings, 2.81 ERA, 81 Ks to 19 walks. And there was one bad outing in high A that really skewed the line, but overall, those numbers are really, really good. Fastball, 96, 17 inches of induced vertical, 12 inches of horizontal. He gets more whiffs on the fastball than any other pitch, which is interesting. And he keeps the batted balls on the ground. So he's getting whiffs and he's getting the ball on the ground when he's not getting whiffs, which is encouraging. He has some outlier traits with a very low VAA, velocity, IVB. He throws a splitter. The splitter had an 895 RPM spin rate, which is very, very low. It just incredible movement. Change up splitters, you want lower spin rate. So that's really, really good, by the way. The slider had a 40% whiff rate on it. Even if he's a reliever, I think there's some value to be had here with Win-Hugh Pan. The stuff, the arsenal, just really, really nasty. Beck put him as a target last year, which is awesome. Last May, Beck had a tweet about him, so be sure to shout that out again. That really kind of sums up the Phillies farm system and who you may want to look at for fantasy purposes. If you guys have any names, I'll be glad to chat with you guys. Let's stick around and talk. I am curious to see, like, there's always going to be pop-up guys. So I'm wondering, like, who are those guys and who may they be? I think Rincon's going to move up a ton. He obviously already has. I think Eduardo Tate is going to be one of those guys that really moves up. Samuel Aldegari, a little deeper name, left-handed pitcher that I like. So he's one to watch pretty closely. But at the end of the day, the system kind of shallow. Not the best system in the world, but has some talent at the top, obviously, with the arms. I think there's some kind of sleeper that could kind of move up board. So I'd watch them pretty closely. But at the end of the day, like, I'm just looking through the farm system, and I feel like there's not a lot to cover. They did sign a guy, Jalvin Arias. So he'll be one that will debut in the DSL. He was signed in this class, the 2024 class. He has big power. The question is the hit tool. Some of the scouts think that there's like 70 grade power. He's 6'2", 230. So really big frame, but he's got to make contact. And that'll be the question. We'll see him in the DSL this summer. And I am pretty curious to see what he looks like. So do I think Miller starts the season in high A? I don't know. I think that actually it may make sense for him to start in single A because it's right by their complex. So he's going to come out of spring training and just step right over to the facility. But I will say he's probably in high A within the first 2 months of the year. There's no reason not to. So I think we likely see Aiden Miller in single A just because it's right by their facility in Clearwater. And then he's bumping up within a couple of months. So that's my prediction. I have no inside information to that, but that's just kind of my guess there. So we'll see. But yeah. So having that facility so close to their single A, it's huge. So I just think that makes the logical sense for them to do. But again, it's not a very deep system, so he may move to high A. We'll see. But I do like Miller a lot. Obviously, talked a lot about him. So what do you think of Painter waiting another year? So, like, basically, do you mean like waiting on him to debut or like sitting on him in Dynasty? I think you have to because his arm's so good. We don't know what the arm's going to look like. We don't know what the arsenal's going to look like coming back, but the success rate with Tommy John is so good. Like, it's not like we're talking about like Brandon Woodruff shoulder or a Kyle Wright shoulder. Like, this is a surgery that players routinely come back from and are fine. And the fact that he's 21, I think you have to sit on him all year in Dynasty. It sucks, but the arm talent's way too good to not. So, and I'm glad he's got it out of the way. Hate they waited so long, but the fact that the Tommy John is over for him is huge. Hopefully we don't see him have it again. The repeat guys, you never want to see that. Yeah, it's crazy. As G-Rex mentioned, it's crazy to see these guys come back and still be dominant from TJ. The technology is so advanced now that, it's not a big deal for them to have Tommy John. So he's certainly somebody to hold on to as much as you can. I wouldn't trade him if I had him. If you can trade for him, I would in a heartbeat. If you're strapped for spots, if it's a very shallow prospect pool for minors, then maybe you have to cut him, even though I wouldn't want to. That would not be my goal. I want to keep him at all costs. So, and fingers crossed that Crawford starts lifting the paw, turns into his father's level. For sure. I think Crawford's got that intriguing frame. He's obviously got the speed. He's got the contact. He even hits the ball pretty hard for his size. So just got to get that launch angle up. We can't have 70% ground balls. 50% would be excellent. 60% would be excellent for Crawford at this point. Let's just see him drop a little bit every year to each level. So yeah. Any other questions? I'll be glad to answer them. Thanks for hanging out today and spending your afternoon, or maybe it's still your morning on the East Coast. We will be back tomorrow. It'll be Washington Nationals prospects. Yay. Who they at least have some more fun names in there now. This draft I thought they did really well. They obviously have James Wood. They've got Cade Cavalli still as a prospect. So it's a better farm system than it was, but
Kroger Delivery makes it easy to do your holiday shopping in a jingle. There might be a lot on your to-do list, but thanks to Kroger Delivery, you can get everything you need delivered straight to your door at the same great prices you'd find in store. Our refrigerated trucks always ensure that your groceries arrive fresh. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order of $75 or more and get free delivery with a Boost membership. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
2025, are you ready to rock? Dave's Killer Bread is ready to rock 2025 and your reset this January with killer taste, killer nutrition, and a killer sweepstakes to win a VIP concert prize pack with round-trip airfare, luxury hotel stay, and much more. Text RESET to 73876 and enter for a chance to win. Dave's Killer Bread. Bread amplified. No purchase necessary. Visit daveskillerbread.com/reset for details.